What happens when a self-confessed gear junkie gets tired of digging through her bins of disorganized gear scattered all over with no rhyme or reason? A renovation. Welcome to my pride and joy, my gear closet. This dream of mine has been at least 5 years in the making, and I've just been putting it off because I've been too busy going out doing awesome epic things, but I was getting tired of trying to find my stuff, getting ready for every adventure. So today, not only are we doing a fun behind the scenes of Explore This right here at our gear headquarters, we are also going to be doing a before and after. And I'm going to show you how what originally looked like a cement concrete block with stains all over the floor, nothing going on, into a 54 square foot mini retail shop that I can step into anytime I want. So if you're a gear junkie and love adventures, and you're also looking for inspiration on how to take your gear and organize it to the next level, this is the episode to watch. Let's go. What I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to break down the stages for you of how we took this concrete block and turned it into a mini outdoor retail adventure paradise, as well as the full list of all of the items that we purchased in order to create this dream gear space. So let me first tell you about the overall inspiration for this renovation. If you were to step into any outdoor retail shop, you're going to see beautiful colors, beautiful displays, things are organized by seasons and by adventures. And I knew it was possible in a space of this size. But the stores that always stood out to me were Cotopaxi. Anytime you walk into their displays, you see these beautiful, brightly colored patchwork style products, from jackets to backpacks. But what you would really see was this beautiful contrast between dark walls and light wood displays and black hangers and hooks to display all of their gear. And luckily in my hometown, there's a Cotopaxi shop where I love to frequent all of the time. And that was the inspiration for this. Let me first share with you where we started with. This was nothing but a concrete shell. This entire wall behind me was just slab foundation concrete. Now, luckily enough, the sides were drywalled and the framing around the door was drywalled, which was already a good start. So our first step is we knew that we had to get this wall behind me drywalled from floor to ceiling. That was the only step that we had contracted out because during the time of planning this project, it was around my trip to Iceland, doing my 12-day trek in the Icelandic Highlands, and ultimately it was one thing we wanted to have just done quick and easy to scratch it off of our list so we could focus more on the aesthetic space. So once we had everything here drywalled, the second step was one of the most fun, the paint. Figuring out what color was really going to create the baseline, the foundation for the aesthetic that I ultimately wanted that mimicked that Cotopaxi retail shop feel. Have you ever done a home renovation project and you can't even believe how many different shades of a color there are? It's insane, right? So after snagging 50 plus shades of gray paint cards from the local Home Depot to bring it to our local Cotopaxi shop, we were putting it on the wall and there was one that absolutely stood out. Can you see the one that is such a perfect match? Not only was this color of gray a perfect match, but it had such a fierce name, Welded Iron. I mean, come on, is that not the best color that you could use to paint a gear closet with? So that was the first step. And I will tell you, when we bought the gray back home, our only concern was, is this too small of a space to handle this dark of a color? But when we got those first strokes of paint on the walls, it started to feel like a project actually coming to life. We could see the vision of it coming together. Oh my God, so fun. So as we're getting this painted on the side walls and then on the back walls, all of a sudden it felt like we were creating this cave. I mean, there's the man cave, but there's also the gear cave. Come on. This is a space that I wanted to feel really tucked in, a space that I could marinate in and just peruse through all of my gear. Now the paint itself was actually really easy. Once we got the color down, this was a one coat paint, and other than doing a couple of spots for touch-ups, this part of the process was really quick. Once we got this thing beautifully painted, the next step was to figure out what was the actual wall display that we wanted to use. Now, I was really in this internal debate. Do we go with pegboards? Do we go with slat walls? Every time I stepped into a Cotopaxi store, I would see these beautiful pegboard displays, but I couldn't find anything that mimicked it quite the way that I wanted. But when I came across slat walls, what I absolutely loved about them is the fact that you have so much versatility. With slat walls, you could hang your gear anywhere along the entire length of the wall. There's so many different types of accessories that you could use, from hooks to baskets to hangers, that I realized the versatility was going to be perfect. So once I figured out that slat walls made the most sense for us, then it was a matter of figuring out what slat walls to use. A lot of the slat walls that I was looking at, especially the ones that were in the wood finish that I wanted to contrast against the dark gray, were in these 4 foot by 2 foot sections. Now, to some extent, that could have been easier for installation, but it also creates a lot more room for error and continuity, because if you have one piece that's not level, all of a sudden the entire rest of the display is thrown off. So after doing a little bit more research, I came across a company called Advanced Displays, and what they offer is really cool. They offer slat walls that come in 4 foot by 8 foot sections that could be oriented either vertically or horizontally. So what was so amazing about it is I realized that by getting those panels in a maple finish to create that nice wood look that you see behind me, all it would take to fully slat wall this space would be 4 slat wall panels. I would need 2 8 foot by 4 foot panels to fit on the back wall, and then 2 4 foot by 8 foot panels oriented vertically to go on the side walls. The best part about getting slat wall pieces this size is that once you install one, it's like you already feel like you've made such huge progress. The only challenge is 2 things. One, you need a vehicle big enough to transport the slat walls, and because we have a smaller SUV, we had to rent a van to get them from the store back up to our place. And second, these suckers are heavy, like super, super heavy to install. It was only my husband and I doing the project, but if we could have had a third person just to help us balance it out, that would have been super helpful. So we had to protect these 4 babies to make sure they were safely transported back up to where we are. So we decided to do the 4 foot by 8 foot vertical slat wall panels first because we knew that they would be easier to hold in place. We wanted to have the slat walls to have a little bit of a floating effect. They're not flush with the floor, so we could put a few things underneath to stabilize it and keep it level, and I could hold in place while my husband used drywall screws to install them into the studs. That, might I add, is why needing to get this drywalled was so important, because you have to have studs in order to install slat walls. If you decide to do slat walls yourself, get drywall screws. We got 2-inch screws to make sure we had enough to get not only through the slat wall, but also all the way through into the stud to hold the amount of weight of what this panel was, and prepare to use a lot. So if you were to look at the groups here, you'll see about every 3rd or 4th row, we're gonna have screws every 18 inches apart to go into each of the studs to make sure this is really secured. So we get the first panel up, we get the second panel up, and all of a sudden we feel like we are 50% there with the project. The trick was going to be this back wall, so we wanted to get our easy wins first. What made this back wall so tricky is that because you have 8 foot by 4 foot panels, if one of us is drilling into the slat wall, then the other person has to hold the weight. And it's bulky when you have 8 feet of slat wall to have to install. It just got a little bit cumbersome and a little bit tricky. So we had to make sure that the slat wall was level, and we had to make sure we got the first couple of screws in along the top row of the slat wall to secure it in place and take the ease of the weight off of it. The best part about these slat walls is the fact that they are tongue and groove. So that means when you have these slat wall pieces coming together, the seam is going to be on the back wall inside the slat, and that makes me so happy because it has such a clean and polished look that you can't even tell where one panel starts and the other begins. And once these 4 panels were up, I am like this little kid. I am so giddy. I cannot believe what this looks like to see it all come together. It literally looks like a retail store. Our final step to this is the flooring, and the flooring is what ultimately completed the look. We came across this really awesome waterproof vinyl flooring at Home Depot called Castle Black Slate, and the look of it was just perfect to go and complement with the walls, but also provide that awesome contrast with the slat walls and storage benches. The only tricky bit with this is that it was really hard to cut. So it says in the instructions all you need is an X-Acto knife to cut it, but let's just say the instructions should say you need about 100 cuts per cut anytime you needed to adjust the length to shorten a piece leading up to a wall or leading up to a door frame. And that part was the most tedious. I don't know what it is about home renovation projects, but I swear just as you're getting to the end is when it gets the hardest. What is it about that? But anyways, once we got the flooring done, it was sweet and beautiful, and you can just take in this awesome cohesive space. Now all of a sudden it feels like this is where I can play. So this is where I can get all sorts of different types of hooks and hangers and baskets to really organize our gear. And the best part about slat walls is that you can move things around any which way that you want. But one of my favorite pieces that we got for the organization are the waterfall hangers. The waterfall hangers are awesome because if you have a lot of jackets, a lot of backpacks, a lot of things that could be bulky and take up a lot of the wall space, the waterfall hangers allow you to bring your display out. And then it's a matter of just figuring out, where do you want things to go? How do you want to organize it? Do you want to organize it by season? Do you want to organize it by theme? team? Do you want to organize it by this is your gear and this is my gear? There's so many different ways that you can organize it and play, but nothing is permanent and has to stay in place. And what's also awesome is that slat walls are durable. They can hold so much weight on one individual slat that you can install heavier gear. The only other thing that we wanted to figure out is what do we do with the bulkier items, things like sleeping bags that take up a lot of space, but we don't necessarily want to put them on display. And then I totally scored and found benches with a really similar wood finish that look like slat walls and have the same exact vibe. Not only is it great for storage, it's also great for seating when organizing gear, putting on shoes or anything else before setting off to the next adventure. The link to these awesome benches and slat wall accessories are also in the description and in the pinned comment at the top, so you can go ahead and check it out. I want to give you a full tour and show you how this is organized at present moment. We've got some baskets with bike helmets, some baskets for some of our smaller items like gloves, hats, sunglasses, things like that. Bike locks, my husband's hockey gear behind me. And then this wall, this mega wall, is where we have a little bit more his and hers action going on. My husband's jackets, my jackets, his hat's technically over there, my hat to be over there. And also all of my many backpacks, my ever-growing collection. I could probably just have a gear closet just for backpacks. A dream, girls got a dream, maybe someday. And then ultimately behind me here, we have some of our bigger, bulkier items like our snowshoes, poles, ski helmets, ice axe. And then of course, below me in these awesome storage benches, these hold a ton of items. And this is a beautiful space. This is where all the magic happens. And one of the best things about this project is, look, we could have contracted this whole thing out and probably spent a lot more cash, but because we spent only money on getting the drywall itself contracted out, we were able to keep this on a pretty low budget scale, and we couldn't be happier. Honestly, this slat wall display, it's here to stay. It's got tons of versatility. There's so much stuff that we can do with this space to rearrange, to reorganize, to install different types of gear as needed and as the adventures grow. So I hope you enjoyed this video where I broke down for you this awesome before and after, creating the ultimate gear dream closet. And it's my hope that in sharing this with you, not only do you get some inspiration behind the scenes while I'm shooting episodes for Explore This on how this whole space came to light, but if you're also a gearhead, you're looking to organize your gear and create it into some type of space that just feels beautiful and awesome to hang out in, I hope this episode really inspired you. And also in the description and in the pinned comment, you'll see a link that you could go to check out some of these resources that I use, particularly the slat wall accessories and the storage benches that I absolutely love. Thanks for hanging out with me here in my gear closet. I'm also kind of digging the phrase gear cave and being on this adventure with me. Stay tuned for more behind the scenes videos where I like to use this as my space to share with you gear I'm choosing, how I'm packing, mistakes that I've learned, what I would do differently, and also most important, I'll look forward to seeing you out on the next adventure. I'm your host, 𝗀𝗃, and can't wait to see where the journey unfolds for us. Here's to more adventures ahead, and I'll catch you next time. Hey, thanks so much for watching today's episode. Take a second and like this video, then subscribe to Explore This so you can get notified on when the next episodes come out where we're going to be seeking adventure, tasting the world, and discovering everything. So excited to have you with me. I'm your host, 𝗀𝗃, and I will see you next time.
You look like you're working in a retail store. Jen got a new job.
Check out the new shop. We have a whole selection here of book bags, ranging from our smallest coming in a 15 liter to our largest coming up to a 65 liter. We have a whole array of camping equipment and blankets, different seasons of course. We have our nice summer collection of the camping, of course our nice selection of bike helmets for the summer or 3 seasons if you're lucky. We also have our ski helmets, about to put up snowshoes. So trying to figure out, do we coordinate by season, by spacing? A little rearranging today, and because we're rearranging, everything is 20% extra.
Extra.